Racing to the 2020 Kentucky Derby continues, and this time let's take a look back at the War at the Shore. It was the Haskell Stakes 2020, not quite the 1987 edition going into it, but at the end of the day we had a nice little photo finish, and Authentic, the 3-5 favorite, picked up the victory over New York Traffic. And the top three from the Haskell Stakes, it looks like they're all going to train up to the 2000 Kentucky Derby. Let's take a look at this race. Coming into the race, Authentic was coming off a second place finish to honor AP, who is pretty much one of the top two favorites for the 2020 Kentucky Derby. He had broken a little bit to the outside from that outside post that day at Santa Anita, and then he was never really engaged for the lead. They kind of rated him back a little bit and just never really took, when he finally made his 3-wide move into the turn, Honor AP kind of went with him and went right by him late. Coming into the Haskell, Authentic was considered kind of the class of the field, and he was bet that way, 3-5. Authentic took the lead and was able to establish an easy lead on the backstretch. Not so much with slow fractions, but he was comfortable, he was well within himself, and of course that into mischief breeding, which we'll talk about in a little bit, got him out to the lead, got him into a good rhythm. Going into the turn, he kind of did that killer crossover, opened up a 3-length lead coming out of the turn, and it looked like he was kind of home free. New York Traffic was running second, Dr. Post was making a move to finish third, and Authentic opened up. Mike Smith kind of let up a little bit, and New York Traffic kind of started cutting into that lead and made it close at the finish line in the final jump, making it a photo finish. So a lot of questions coming out of the race. Is Authentic a miler? Is he a mile and an eighth-er? Is he not going to be able to get that last quarter of a mile? I do think Mike Smith stopped riding kind of in mid-stretch. I think he was listening to the announcer and thought he had the race won. It was very unusual what New York Traffic did to kind of make it a race late. That was a pretty strong effort from New York Traffic to kind of close into the race. The race comes up with a 100 Beyer speed figure, which is the same speed figure on the Beyer scale as the Belmont Stakes. And a lot of people are comparing Dr. Post losing by 4 lengths to Tis the Law, and then losing by about 4 lengths to Authentic, kind of making the performances a little bit the same. The Belmont day, the track was faster, so the raw time was a little bit slower in the Haskell, but they did just a little bit quicker than what the older horses did at the same distance. Global Campaign, who dug in and ran a nice race in the Monmouth Cup. So, lots of ways to look at this race. I think Authentic is always going to be questioned for his pedigree, but, a lot of things go in that Derby. A lot of times, a lot of the horses are done going into the turn. So Authentic has enough tactical speed. He's going to be one of the top 5 favorites for the Kentucky Derby. He's probably going to lead coming into the stretch in the Kentucky Derby. And if it's a sloppy track, if a few horses get some trouble, he could use his speed and try to open up a 2 to 3 length lead, similar to what Bodemeister did, who was collared late. So I guess worse things can be, if you can be on the lead coming, with an eighth of a mile to go, a lot of trainers and jockeys and owners will take that year after year, because more good things will happen than bad things. So Authentic, we'll see how he trains. He still runs with that head really high. He still kind of gawks and looks into the stands. He's never really put a complete race together, and I'm not sure he's going to at this time. But one thing about those into mischiefs is they'll take some training, and horses like Golden Sense and some of these other horses, they can just really be worked and worked and worked and worked. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some 6 furlong works, some 1 mile works, and he's finally getting into a rhythm now. He had 90 days off between his race coming into the Santa Anita Derby, and then roughly about 60 days off coming into the Haskell. So I think he's going to be right at that sweet spot, right around 48 days coming into the Kentucky Derby. Authentic first, New York Traffic second. He ran a good race. He'll train up to the Kentucky Derby. I think even less of a chance of him to get a mile and a quarter. But again, he's got tactical speed. He'll be forwardly placed, and he's got to deal with a bigger field. But those are lots of good qualities to like about him. Dr. Post, I was a little bit disappointed with his effort, but he had ran a couple of good races in a row. Maybe he can consolidate that. 50 days off should be perfect for him. Again, another one with another little more of a speedy pedigree. And can he get the mile and a quarter distance is going to be the big question. So still a lot to figure out, but some questions answered. Authentic, better to go there off a win. New York Traffic, solid effort. He'll go in training well, hopefully to continue to train well. And Dr. Post, does he need to get a little bit closer to the lead? That's a look at the Haskell Recap for 2020. Remember, hit subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. This week, the big stakes race we're going to preview is the Vanderbilt Stakes. Volatile going to take on Whitmore and a couple of other crack sprinters from the Spa. And we'll also take a look at, get an Oaks update too. Some big races over the weekend, the CCA Oaks recap, and kind of put that into context for the Kentucky Oaks. Continue to subscribe and follow along as we lead you up to the 2020 Kentucky Derby.